We'll go into any adjustments to the agenda suggestions. Do we have any? Would you please indicate by looking at me? So, okay, no adjustments. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion, support. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. We'll come to the public comment period, and we see quite a few people here, and welcome again. And this is a very important part of our opportunity to learn from you, to seek some understanding. And we just have a few guidelines that we'd ask you to adhere to, and I'll read those. At this time, the public are welcome to address the county board in any matter of county concern. When invited to speak, please speak into the microphone for clarity, sign in, state your name, address, and the topic you are addressing. Members of the public may speak respectfully for up to 5 minutes. The public comment period is limited to a total of 30 minutes unless the chair decides to extend it, and then we'll go beyond that. County board members may ask or answer questions of the speaker, but issues shall not be debated during the public comment period. At the board's discretion, the board may agree to schedule matters addressed during the public comment period on the current board agenda or on a future board agenda. All discussions must be respectful in nature and must be directed at the board, not at other members of the public. So with that, we'll start with if you'd raise your hand and would like to come forward, sign in. Nope. Okay, well, that one was first. Mike, I think I saw your first. Mike.
My name is Mike Hofer. I'm a resident of Cook County on County Road 60. I'll sign in here. Good morning, Commissioners, Administrator Rogers. Thanks for your attention. I want to just address you pretty briefly, but focus on the B2B route. As you know, the proposal to include Cook County in this nationally advertised designated route has been controversial. Some in our community are even choosing to frame this as a win or lose fight, depending on the outcome. And that's disappointing because I think there's really a sensible solution here, and I think that has been overplayed as this being a battle. So I'm still waiting to hear a coalescing voice in our county leadership point out a key fact that seems to be lost in all the conversation, and that is also a fact that should alleviate the tension around this topic. The key fact is this: every road that is on the proposed B2B route is already open and available to everyone to travel and recreate on. And we are all welcome to use these roads, and we do use them right now in a dispersed and sustainable way. Fact is, we don't really need the B2B route to recreate on these roads. I've attended many meetings and conversations where the B2B is discussed. I haven't heard individuals or groups advocating for taking these roads out of use, banning OHV recreation in the county, or closing our doors to anyone. In fact, all of us enjoy motorized recreation in some fashion, and hopefully those who are particularly passionate about motorized recreation can understand that questioning this proposal doesn't mean you are anti-OHV or anti-motorized recreation whatsoever. What I do hear is reasonable questions and concerns from reasonable people about the logistical and environmental risks associated with this proposal. Designating and promoting nationally an OHV route is not a one-time event that can be reviewed periodically and reassessed. The persistent questioning is aimed at one thing only, and that's whether or not the long-term impacts will be positive for our residents, government services, and the environment throughout Cook County. So I want to propose there's a simple win-win solution right in front of us. It's always been there. Here it is. First, a reminder to the community and all constituents that, again, the roads being eyed for this designated route are open to all. And for now, until we have clear answers about traffic levels, funding, environmental management plans, it only makes sense for the county to watch and see how this project plays out elsewhere over a period of time. Without answers to the questions or the information we seek, it's the only reasonable option. And with this proposal, nobody loses. That's because the roads are already available, they're currently in use, and any individual is still welcome to come and enjoy them as they always have been. So thanks for listening, and thank you for your service to the county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Yes.
Well, I'm not going to be so eloquent as he, and please forgive me for that.
Would you give your
My
name,
name is
please?
Bonnie Fairchild, and I live in Grand Marais. I'm probably going to ask some questions that maybe you already have heard, because I'm not sure what has been decided or investigated. But anyway, thank you for letting me speak. I urge you to support a resolution for opposing the B2B trail in Cook County. I think to put our single-lane forest roads into a two-way B2B trail seems like a sacrilege. It leaves the door open to added spurs that will be built in our woods to make a more challenging route. This trail will alter what we have here. It seems like there are some unanswered questions, at least for me. Do we know how many vehicles will be allowed to caravan across the wilderness going both directions, sometimes on a single-lane, unimproved trail? How can this not be damaging to unmaintained roads? These are some of the very same roads residents and visitors use to access lakes for fishing, hiking, biking, and some to actually go to the residences. County, state, and U.S. forestry roads will be used. Who maintains what? Are there ample monies being made available each year to repair damages? Could this maintenance cost be added to our taxes? If not, does the DNR have any data on other areas where on and off-road vehicles are used in this manner? Has the DNR done research to see how the forest and pristine streams will be affected? What about disrupting wildlife habitat and bringing in invasive species? How will these areas be monitored, and how often? How does repeated or sustained motor vehicle noise affect wildlife? Who is responsible for cleaning up litter? Who handles emergencies? A caravan can bring in many people, maybe 4 in each vehicle. Are latrines being built and maintained, or are the woods simply being used? Has anyone assessed increased fire danger? It's a worry to us all at times. Can recreational fires for meals be made on the trails? Is camping allowed in undesignated campsites? Mainly, we hear that the trail will bring more people and money to our tourist area. Is more summer parking being added somewhere? Or more places to house people? Tourism should be encouraged in the winter months when there is parking, when motels and hotels and resorts have room for people. Go all out advertising downhill and cross-country skiing, snowmobiling, dog sledding, snowshoeing, fat tire bikes, winter camping, and ice fishing. Add in the art, music, plays, and North House learning skills. How this low-packed-in tourist activity will bring in money to the merchants and leave minimal damage. The beauty of Cook County and the unique people attract others to our small towns. Artists delighting us with their paintings and crafts, and people of music and voice abound. Students come to the North House, our unique learning center, where one can learn and develop almost forgotten skills. People also come here for the peace and quiet of the woods and waters. They experience the majestic Lake Superior, the lake that changes faces every day, the lake that residents love. On the interior of the county, the forests are still wild. People hike, bike, canoe, and likely see the wildlife that call these places home. Canoeing draws those that want to get away from vehicles, phones, demands, and noise. They discover that going back to basic skills to fulfill their needs for food, shelter, and warmth changes something deep within their souls, and they leave little trace or sound. I urge you all to try to look at the B2B trail from different perspectives. Be thought-filled on a bigger picture. What do we cherish here? Consider the spirit of Cook County and the image it now projects. Would changing that image be positive or negative for our community? At least one other county has declined. We can too. We would be depriving no one. The trails are already there and can be traveled. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have copies for commissioners and.
You can just hand them to Stacy. Okay, Karen, I see your hand up first.
Hello, I'm Karen Blackburn. I come here today as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Let me sign in. I live in Grand Marais. I'm here today to speak about the short-term rental classification issue. I really want to thank you so hard for trying to understand the issue and come to a consensus that Cook County can forward to Tom Bach and the legislature to work from. I know it is a complicated and convoluted issue. I am aware you have a resolution concerning classification of short-term rentals. I am also aware that you are considering a couple of options for the final paragraph. I come before you today to ask you to choose option 2, which recommends that a new tax class be created for short-term rentals that is higher than the seasonal rec class and lower than the commercial class. The Cook County Chamber of Commerce Board supports option 2. As most of you know, the movement of this issue to the legislature will require lots of negotiation with the interests of many different stakeholders taken into consideration. Choosing option 2 allows for Cook County to achieve the desired outcome without tying the hands of our advocates. This is a big issue for our county. I love economics, and I understand that change does not happen in a vacuum. A change in the tax rate of short-term rentals will have an impact on our economy. Let's try to mitigate the negative effects on the economy when creating a new tax rate. So,
Thank you,
you.
Karen.
Thank you.
Looking for a hand, right there. Just grab another chair and bring it up. Thank you.
Good morning. My
Morning.
name is Terry Chillaphone, and this is my husband, James Coleman. James has been a member of the community for 15 years, and we're both very vested in this community. We are here on behalf of the new tax classification for short-term rentals. We own the Mountain Inn in Lutzen. I also own Lutzen Reflections Massage Studios, both in Grand Marais and in Lutzen. We do have a vacation rental on Ski Hill Road, and because of this new tax classification, we will be moving into that vacation rental and using our home that we live in now for housing. And that a big part of that decision for us was the tax hike and not being able to sustain the thin margins that we already have. This tax hike, I think, is going to impact our county and our community in so many ways and is going to go so deep to the point that Cook County has made it amazing to bring people here in the off seasons and the shoulder seasons. This will affect my business. An example is even just this Wednesday, I have people staying who come and stay in the same vacation rental with Cascade Vacation Rentals, and they come in the off seasons. They come in April and May, and they come in November and December. And when there's nobody here, if there are no vacation rentals for them to stay in, it means the one that they have been coming to for years and years and years, that they build memories in, it means I have no massage clients. So this affects my bottom line all across the board. It also affects the ability for us as new business owners for the Mountain Inn to be able to sustain a year-round employee. So we'll be unable to provide a salary for somebody who can sustain to live here year-round. Now we'll have to say, I'm sorry, you're seasonal, and we're going to have to close our doors during these months because there's not enough business. So.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As Terry stated earlier, the margins are very, very thin. We pay already, quite a bit of tax in Cook County, and that's understandable. We have a lot of expense up here. But at some point, we cannot keep absorbing that cost, and we have to pass it on to our guests. And at some point, when the cost gets great enough, they'll just stop coming. If we start shortening the tourism up here, we're going to start shortening the ability for other members to come and move here and enjoy this place as much as we do. So I'd just ask for careful consideration in how you reclassify small business such as ourselves, so that we're able to stay and bring others up here as well. So thanks for your time this morning. Much
Thank you
appreciated.
both.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Sam Hedstrom, and I was born and raised in Cook County here. This is my first time addressing the board, so I'm going to do my best here. So first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for your service. I very much appreciate what you guys are doing for the community. So I'm here to express my opinion on the proposed changes to the vacation rental tax rate in Cook County. So I grew up here, born and raised, graduated high school here, went to college in Duluth, lived in Colorado, and I've been back here living and working full-time for the last 10 years. And what I do right now is I work as an electrician. And so I feel like that's something that maybe hasn't been touched on yet. I think a lot of people feel perhaps that working in the trades were not tied to a tourist economy. However, from my point of view, we actually are very much tied to a tourist economy. So primarily what I work on here as an electrician is second homes, cabins, and the people that own those cabins and second homes first came here as tourists, and they probably stayed in hotels, vacation rentals, and that's where they developed their connection with Cook County, then decided to build up here. Another large part of our work is commercial, and with commercial work, we primarily are working for local businesses. So that's hotels, restaurants, and businesses that serve the tourists that come here. And one of the things that's really nice about living here is that we are able to stay busy full-time doing electrical work, and that is very much tied to the tourist economy and the fact that people are coming up here year-round. It allows the businesses to make enough money to then make improvements, to add additional features, improve their facility and create a better experience for the people that they're serving. And so even though working in the trade seems like it's not related to tourism, in my mind, it very much is. And that just is a fact. That's the economy that we have up here. I'm certainly not against building out the economy in other ways. It's just right now, that's what we have. And that's what is supporting a majority of us here in Cook County. So I know you have a tough job ahead of you to figure out what the right tax rate is for the vacation rentals. And I guess in the event that that's pushed off and handled by a state level, I guess I would just ask that you would make an appeal to the state and just let them know that, hey, here in Cook County, we do have a different economic model than much of the state, and to please keep that in mind as they're creating legislation, that something that is crippling to the tourist economy is going to have a large ripple effect on most everyone who lives and works up here. So I think that covers what I have to say. So, all right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Hand up. Yes, Mike.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
My name's
Morning.
Mike Schmea. I want to first off say thank you guys for your service to our county. You got a tough job, and I'm in the ear of a few of you, and a lot of times I'm not very nice about it. Last night I worked until like 2:30, and so I got up this morning. My voice is hoarse. I'm barely awake, and I apologize for that. I work as a bartender 2 nights a week here in Cook County. The majority of my income comes from my pottery business. I've owned and operated my own business for 25 plus years. I was honored to attend the Carlson School of Management of the U of M. And I was in my studio a couple of weeks ago, or whenever the last meeting was, about this tax rate for the short-term vacation rentals, and listening to WTIP, and I heard people come and speak on it. So some friends of mine that weekend rented a place down in Tofty, and I went down and hung out with them and asked them what they paid. They paid $700 for 2 nights for a place on Lake Superior in Tofty. Well, on my way home, I did the math of what the proposed 183 days brings in income for that property. And I think it's at the state level that's the 183 days that they're not going to tax commercial until after that. So I did the math, and it came out to be $64,000. So I was kind of like, we're not going after some of that money in our county. So here it is, about 2:30 in the morning. I go home, jump on our wonderful property search, and I look up the property. They're paying a little over $3,000 in taxes a year. There were people here saying that it would double or triple at the tax rate that somebody was proposing. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm sitting at home making close to gross $64,000 before expenses, I'm not really going to squawk at $6,000 in taxes. I'm not even going to squawk at $9,000 in taxes. And that wouldn't happen until after the 183 proposed days. So I went on the property search, and I also looked at where these people live. They were from Eden Prairie. So here they have $64,000 in income. That's majority of it's getting spent in Eden Prairie. Yeah, we're seeing our taxes, but then I thought, well, our hotels pay commercial taxes. They also, and I'm not saying that the vacation rentals in all cases don't pay other taxes as far as workman's comp and contribute to the Social Security tax base and employ people here in Cook County. I know they do, but our hotels seem to have to pay higher employment, and They don't get to advertise on our sell and swap looking for someone to work for $20 an hour cash to clean their house after a vacation rental. While our taxes here as residents in Cook County keep going up, this is a way to lighten the burden, taxing these and using that. I mean, these people are, my income, majority of my income depends on how many people we get into this county. I sell probably 60% of my pottery to people that come to this county to vacation. And I don't think that increasing the tax rate for these vacation rentals is going to affect people coming to Cook County. If 183 days before the tax rate even goes up, if they were to increase their rates by $10 a day, that's $1,800 to cover what could be their increase in taxes. It's not going to stop anybody from renting their place. So I think we need to increase it and lighten the burden on the citizens of Cook County. Plus, these people come up and they use our roads, they use our infrastructure. All this tourism brought here, they're using the stuff that we have to pay for. There's some of that expense should be passed on. So that's all I got. I'm going to go back home and go back to bed. But I really appreciate your time, you guys. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Okay. We'll go on to the consent agenda items. Is there anything that anyone would like to see pulled?
Chairman, I don't want to pull anything, but I just want to thank Bill Gabler for coming forth to add his name to work with the Revolving Loan Fund Committee. I think more people in the community, if they understand some of our committees, how important it is for folks to come and bring their talents and their background, such as he has in housing and public finance. And some folks on committees like it so much they want to stay on and do another term. So I thank Bill and everyone else who has put forth their name for our committees.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Storley. Anyone else? Commissioner Dukert?
I do not want to pull the jail dispatcher, but this has been an extremely long search for that. So I think we should make note and thank you to Gary Fagerman for applying and being accepted today. That's huge for law enforcement and to fill Pat's deputy roles out there.
Thanks. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to move to approve.
So moved.
Support from anyone?
Support.
Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Very good. We will now go to our regular agenda items, and that is to call on Sheriff Pat Eliason to come forward to present some more information about his border-to-border route letter that he sent, or email he sent to us. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. How's everybody? So I guess I'll first start out by saying that when we spoke about the border-to-border route during our public safety and transportation meeting, we brought up some concerns that are real. I mean, in my opinion, they are real concerns. And so I addressed them in this letter to everybody, but that does not mean that I'm opposed to this border-to-border route. Okay, my job is to look for risks, find ways to mitigate those risks, and look into the future for any possibility that things may turn sideways for Cook County, which translates into my staff responding, and not only the deputies, but the search and rescue folks who do it completely volunteer. Those people leave their jobs, they leave their families to go help everybody else in need, and we cannot give them enough credit for doing that. So the concerns I brought up, obviously everybody's read them. And this route, as the first speakers talked about, they're public roads, they're already open to public travel. So if, I guess it will be up to the board making the decision as to whether, this amount of visitors is going to be positive, or if there's a different outcome. We have to look at every thing that goes on in Cook County. And by we, I mean not only myself, but the other department heads, the highway engineer, land services, even when it comes to public health and human services. Everybody in Cook County at any given time should have any service that they need. Whether they live here, whether they're visiting here, whether they're summer residents, whether they're just passing through. So we look at that, and when I drafted this letter, I tried to look at all of that and put it as comprehensively as I could, and as short as I could, into a couple bullet points here. So, like I said before, I'm not opposed to this trail by any means, or route. I shouldn't say trail, route. If it brings great positive recreation into Cook County, that's wonderful. Just like any other form of recreation we have in Cook County, everything should be positive. Everything should work in a fashion where, when we're done with it, when the people who are participating are done with it, they walk away and say, hey, you know what, I want to come back to Cook County again because that was fantastic. And part of that is placed on me in my office. So that's where I'm sitting with this letter right now.
Okay, thank you, Pat. So since it's an agenda item, any questions, discussion from the board? Commissioner Dukert?
I have lots. So you mentioned scrutiny for different things in different departments. Is the same level of scrutiny applied to every activity that we have?
It's going to be, yes.
Okay. In the last 3 years, you mentioned wildland fire. In the last 3 years, have we had a wildland fire in the Superior National Forest?
We have not.
Okay. How many, have we had an increased number of calls into the Superior National Forest in the last 3 years? I mean, I know you don't have this data in front of you, but just in general?
I don't even want to speculate because, when you get to specifics as calls within Superior National Forest, I don't want to say yes or no.
Okay.
Until I have the numbers in front of me.
Just because, like the comments this morning that this will be nationally advertised, it's already. It went up years ago. It's already out there. The route is already out there. The concerns that we have of the wildfire, they're already using it. You've also born and raised here.
I am.
Deputy for over 20 years.
Yes.
So I don't want to pick on campers and hikers and bikers, but we know very well that besides Mother Nature, the forest fires that we have had are people camping in the BWCA who have left fires unattended, or people that are visiting, vacation renters, visiting vacation rentals that are leaving. We had a house explode last summer, and it was because somebody left the little fire pit unattended on the island. Now, that was a Canadian response, but it was at the Sag Island, so as part of the fire department, I responded as backup to that, and that was we assumed when the house exploded, propane leak. And we got there and found out in the investigation that that was a fire left in the pit that wasn't fully extinguished. So I understand your concerns, but when we look at, you and I are over 40, and we look at the last 40 years of history, it's not someone flicking a cigarette out the window. Sorry, someone said that to me the other day, that the off-road people smoke cigarettes and flip them out the window. It's all sorts of events create concern here and concern for your department, and I'm glad to hear that we're going to be scrutinizing things a little more because we keep getting busier and busier, and we keep getting more vacation rentals, and we have more people here, and we want them all here because we love everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Storley?
Thank you for putting this together. I want to address your specific area of law enforcement. In the summertime, how many deputies do you hire for Grand Marais specifically?
Extra deputies, we hire one seasonal person extra for Grand Marais.
And that has that always been the case? Or has it
Yes.
increased?
Ever since the contract was created back in 1997, that has been the case.
Okay. So the law enforcement, how do you see it affecting larger groups who will continue coming here to Cook County from, let's say, April through November? Larger groups meaning more than just single events, like the Fat Tire, the bike, and all of that.
A lot of it depends on the event and the resources which some of the event planners, excuse me, bring with. Excuse me. When we have the already established events, and I will talk about, the 99er and Le Grand du Nord. I will give those people credit, especially the organizers for those events. They think of everything. They bring everything that they need. They rarely need any help from us, other than search and rescue and EMS response if somebody gets hurt. As far as my office goes, we actively patrol it. We'll sit at some intersections here and there just to make sure everybody's safe getting across. And we do that for the Le Grand du Nord as well, especially since they come down County Road 7 and they come right through town. We want to make sure that everybody has a safe event. As far as staff being, asked to do a lot, it is. I mean, when you have events every weekend, we don't let our staff off for vacations during those events. Sorry. So when you take the 12 or 13 weekends a summer and you have staff with families and young children, that is the only time they can take vacations. So when you start restricting those weekends down to 2 or 3 weekends, that's all you can have off a summer, and then it goes by seniority. Well, there are going to be some staff who are going to get the short end of the stick. There's no doubt about that. And that's just the nature of our business, and that's the way we'll continue to run things. I mean, we can have events every day in Cook County, which is fine with us, because we will keep working them. We will keep doing our jobs. We will, and my staff does it at a high level. But we will get to a point where, when you add the water response in, especially in Lake Superior, our jurisdiction extends about 10 miles out into Lake Superior, which we have never patrolled ever, because we don't have the people to do it. We have statutory requirements right now that we can never get to in the summertime, that it says right in the statutes that we have to do, and we don't, because we don't have the staff. So when you start extending that out and spreading that staff even thinner and thinner, well, there's going to be a point where I'm probably going to have to come and ask for more staff.
So all of that would mean a budget increase?
Possibly, unless I can find cuts somewhere, which are difficult, to say the least.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dukirk?
I just want to clarify that budget increase is for all activities, not just this route. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, thank you for putting the letter together and for clarifying as well, both on the radio and then here too. Really appreciate it. And, I think I share some of your concerns, and I just want to I'd like everyone to take a step back and realize this isn't an us, them situation. And I just want to be as objective as we can and identify concerns and address concerns. And so I feel like pitting people against each other it certainly wasn't your intention, and I'd like us as a board to try to keep that in mind. I was just wondering if you've had any further, regarding these concerns, if either the DNR or the Minnesota four-wheel drive has reached out to try to, either develop a plan to address these concerns or communicate the plan to address these concerns, or, at this point, communication has been here and there, so.
Yes, I've talked to several people, and which, like I've always said, I always welcome. I mean, if somebody wants to ask me questions about something and clarify, maybe I did not come across as clear as I should have in this letter. And if people have questions, by all means, you should come and ask me instead of speculating and forming opinions based off this. Like I said before, we're not opposed. to the route whatsoever. I was corrected after I talked to some of the other folks who were involved with this. I made the mistake of misstating in the interview that the border went from south to north.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I got that,
and I'm
yeah.
sorry for that. I was corrected, and I stand corrected. It goes from east to west, or west to east. I'm sorry. So,
It's
I mean,
up for debate all the time about which direction 61 goes or the Gunflow Trail.
but that's where these conversations are good with different groups and different people, because, you know, I learned something, and maybe through this letter, we can you know, have better, more deep dialogue about this, and get to a point where everybody can recreate in Cook County and have a good time.
Yeah. So I haven't had continued conversations, but I have had conversations with representatives from the DNR and I guess the lobbyist for Minnesota Four-Wheel Drive Association. And through those conversations, I haven't got a real firm answer or plan or direction on how to address these, and so I didn't know if there was more that you knew that I didn't know, and that's all I'm trying to figure out.
Not a whole lot, no. No.
Yeah.
I will say that, you know, when the bullet point that I brought up about, you know, wildfires, every spring we have discussions with the Forest Service and the DNR, and the Forest Service and DNR identify places within Cook County which are more susceptible to wildfires than others. And one of those areas is the McFarland Lake area this year. And we're going to be talking more about that. We're going to have some meetings coming up, but, you know, that lies along this route. So I don't think that should be easily dismissed. You know, it should be thought about, absolutely. But it's also, you know, it's probably not a deal breaker.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to comment? I would just respond to what you just said, that I've been asked to be on the McFarland Lake issue by the Forest Service as well, having spent 27 years up there and seen a couple of close fires, one 4 doors down. And so that is of concern. And I know I can speak for that area, that we have some real issues with safety. And thank you for bringing that up. We'd like to just also mention that Commissioner DeShaw and I serve on Public Safety and Transportation Committee, and we have discussed this there. Therefore, you know, your comments have come forward, and we had some, you know, summary of a meeting that was submitted to the board as well. But we will be continually addressing this, and not just events, but, you know, increased demand and so forth. So this is something that is a work in progress through the committee process that we have as a county. So, and there will be some recommendations more than likely coming forward, maybe dealing with events as well as increased use and demand in regards to that. So thank you so much. Commissioner DeShaw, do you want to weigh in? And haven't heard from you.
Yeah, personally, I don't have a problem with this trail or route. I think it gives people the opportunity to see the county in a different way. This county's for everybody to enjoy. You know, if you want quiet sports, go to the Boundary Waters. If you want to go Lake Superior, etc. If you want to go to the North House, you know, we have room for everybody in Cook County. And this is an opportunity to get some of these roads fixed, possibly. You know, a lot of the roads that are on the route that are in question, you know, I've hauled wood off of these roads in a semi. You know, I don't think a Jeep's going to do any more damage than a truck with 100,000 pounds coming out of there. So I'm in support of the trails, or the road.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner DeKirk?
Kind of touching off of what Bobby said and a little bit of Dave and this us and me. My husband owned a business downtown with his first wife, And at one point, there was a community attitude against snowmobilers. And the conversations we've had, he almost went bankrupt. So you can say the route is already open and we're not saying you're not welcome. You are saying you're not welcome. The letters to the editor are saying you're not welcome. And how people are talking is saying that you're not welcome. And it does affect businesses. It does affect people. And yes, I am the secretary of Tread Lightly Off-Road, and I'm very active in many off-road community cultures and posts and social medias, and I will tell you that what they're saying is, forget Cook County. So the trailhead is going to move to Lake County. If you don't want us, I will drive from Canada straight through your town and stop visiting. I will stop filling up my car. That is what they are saying. It has become an us and me and a we and a them. You can shake your head. It's reality. It's what's happened, and it happens in my house. I mean, my husband tries his best to stay out of political conversations and stay off of Facebook because his opinions are seen as mine, and he went after Pat on social media, and that's not okay. He's having the memories of growing up here. He's having the memories of the attacks on his friends and family and of losing his livelihood and losing the ability to participate in activities because of the fears of citizens and the anger against them. This is us and them. I'm sorry. That's what it has become.
Commissioner Mills.
I'm sorry for Jordy's experience, and I'm sorry for the feelings you're getting from this, and I just feel that as community leaders that we need to do our best to take a step back and just look at things as objectively as possible. And I know emotions can run high, but we just have to remind ourselves and each other to continue just to, okay, let's look at this objectively. Let's look at the merits. Let's weigh our options. Let's develop a plan. And you know, I guess we don't need to drag Sheriff Eliason into this, but you know, I just think that I like the concept. I don't see a plan, and as county commissioner, I feel that in order to support something, I need a pretty solid plan. So that's all I'm saying, and I'm not trying to discourage any form of tourism or anything. I'm just trying to, if we want a successful project, we got to plan it well.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Mills. Commissioner Story?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Mills. I think we need to look at every aspect, starting with law enforcement, highway department, environmental impact, the whole 9 yards. And I think at the end of the month, we'll have a chance to speak to someone from DNR, and we'll have our questions. In the meantime, we maybe need to do a little more footwork on some of these areas, but as a board member, we need to see the whole picture before we can make a decision. Thank you for coming today, too.
One more
Sure.
thing. This to me is reminiscent of when we were going to open up parts of the Gunflint Trail to ATV riding. You know, there was some pretty strong feelings on both sides. We finally came to a plan that I think everybody accepted, and part of that plan was to, you know, come back in 2 or 3 years or 4 years after it's passed and evaluate it and maybe look at some numbers, whether if there were calls or whether there was damage to any parts of the roads because of the ATVs. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well, that if this is passed, maybe put a caveat that, you know, in 3 years we evaluate it again and see where we're sitting.
And we evaluate it every year.
Excuse me. Okay, was that, you were closing your comments on that?
That was.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For all you do, Sheriff, and your department.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to short-term rental resolution. I'll make a few opening remarks. As we get into this topic, I would ask again that you speak through this chair so that we can, you know, not have as many interruptions, and we've spent a lot of time in this. We've got 4.5 hours as a board in work sessions, and want to thank Linda Jurek and Jim Boyd for meeting with us as those that were selected to represent the Chamber of Commerce, as well as others with the short-term rental industry. And I know that some of us have put in a lot more than that time, and I'm sure that some of those board members have put in a lot more than we have. And so we've really tried to be careful in vetting this and getting good input, and we have with us today Jim Boyd and Linda Jurek. They're going to be available only if we have questions that we should address to them, and please address them to the chair. We've spent quite a bit of time in this. This, to me, as board chair, has been reminiscent of maybe some of you have had this experience or a dream, but you know, you work hard on getting a puzzle put together, and you're getting down to the final pieces, and all of a sudden, some of the pieces change. And we've had a little of that, and that's progress. And we're not putting a puzzle together, because we're not going to keep everyone happy. We're not going to maybe complete the puzzle, but it is a formidable challenge at times to try to come to some kind of understanding when it's a moving target, and this will be as it goes forward. Our purpose as a board was to work on a resolution that we could agree with on ourselves, so that's why it's on the agenda right now. And I want to thank everyone for all of their work and time on it, and I think we're at a point where the board hopefully is ready to agree on something that we can put forward representing our thoughts on this very important issue. And hopefully, again, there won't be winners and losers. That we'll just try to do the best we can for our county, and which includes our interests as well as the county and our funding and so forth, as well as the business interests of our community and our economy that is tourist-driven by 80% or more. So with that, I'd like to ask Commissioner Mills to present some kind of resolution and where he's at on this. He's worked a long time on it. We've spent some time on it just recently, and we thought that he would be a good point to start with.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I stayed up later than I would have liked last night, trying to pick away a little bit at the resolution, changing it a little bit from what's in the packet. I also asked Attorney Hicken to look it over just briefly if anything stood out, and feel free to hack it up and make any comments that you see fit. One of the areas that I changed was addressing the idea of short-term rentals being a mixed-use class. Just a comment that our assessor made me want to address that a little bit more. And so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6th recital in this paper I just handed out, and I can read it so that everyone can hear what it says. And it's just, whereas the mixed use of short-term rentals fits neither the commercial nor the seasonal rec class, and is prone to inequities and inconsistencies if classified as either via a primary use test. It's fairly wordy, but I wanted to see what the board thought about that.
Okay, so we'll start comments on that paragraph. Commissioner Duker.
Kind of needs to be wordier. One of the things that we don't have in here is that currently they're classed as 4B1. So if somehow we could put that maybe in that sentence where it doesn't fit commercial or seasonal, it does very nicely fit 4B1. But if the state does not see that, and I see Molly thinking over there, she's going to figure out how to word it, that we need a different class
4B1 for the sake of people like me that haven't memorized those?
Here, I have the sheet.
And for the sake of everyone else, that's okay.
That's what it's currently classed as. 4B1 is a residential non-homestead 1 to 3 units
Okay.
at 1.25.
Okay.
What they are currently for 2020 classed as.
And I'm comfortable adding that somehow. Do you have a suggestion on?
Not exactly, but I know that Bob has 8 pages of evidence of why it fits there, and that's why they were put there by our assessor's office. I mean, that's always the option that they could just, instead of making a new class, say leave them, do what Cook County did and leave them there, because they're smart.
Okay, so you're comfortable with that, Commissioner Mills? And so is there some wording that we could ponder on?
Yeah,
Attorney?
I'm in the process of drafting it. I'm just wondering if Commissioner Dukirk is suggesting that it be added to paragraph 5, whereas, I'm sorry, paragraph 6, the mixed use of short-term rentals. And I'm asking you to consider whether it belongs better in paragraph 5. County assessors have wide latitude in determining primary use, which has led to inconsistent practices in classifying property used for short-term rental across the state, and then make a reference to, for example, in Cook County, we have added it to, we have classed these as residential non-homestead.
My only worry of putting it there is implying that with the wide latitude, that's not necessarily the correct class code to use.
The implication.
Commissioner Mills?
I might suggest putting it at the very end as another alternative, as an alternative solution. One thing, well, hey, I'll back up again, sorry. One thing I wanted to just talk about is what we identified as priorities for the process as our work group, and that's something that helped form the whole resolution. And so I'll just read through those priorities that we identified. Serves the best interest of the people for Cook County. Fair to everybody. Data-driven. Impact on homestead taxpayers. Clarifying the use in a single classification. Not arbitrary. Best interests of lodging properties. And chance of something that can be adopted. So it's going to make everyone happy is what our goal is. We'll see how
First time
we
ever.
do. Yeah, we'll see how we do there. And so with that in mind, looking at what is in the packet with option 1 with 2 paragraphs or option 2, what I'm proposing towards the bottom is combining something that I've talked about at our work group with trying to find that happy number, but then getting feedback from the chamber asking for option 2. The wording would be something like, therefore the county board recommends a local rate of 1.25% for property value at or below $275,000, and then anything above that at 1.5%, subject to the RMV tax and exempt from the state general tax. Or more generally, a local class rate higher than the seasonal recreation class and lower than the commercial class. And so it gives some kind of numerical specifics, so we're not just throwing everything at the state, kind of giving perspective of what can work, because the 4B1, which short-term rentals are currently in, did help the county tax capacity, the tax base, everyday homeowners, but did not make it so onerous on the short-term rental owners themselves. And after talking with or getting feedback from Attorney Hicken, the language on the $275,000 kind of threshold needs changing. I didn't intend it to, I didn't intend for the entire property to be, taxed at the 1.5 if it's greater than that, just any amount above that. And so I don't know how that wording is. Now, that being said, Assessor Thompson raised concerns about that tiered system. But I think it really, whereas the State Assessors Association may not support it, I think it really gets to trying to find that happy medium. And that number was loosely based on the median price of vacation rentals. So it attempts to address some equity issues. Reading a little bit about the Assessors Association opposition to tiered systems, it has to do with kind of price fixing or value fixing. But I guess, and just a level of complexity, but I guess we have to try to bring something that's going to work for us. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Alternatively, we could have asked for an overall rate of 1.35, but that's not done anywhere in the tax system. So that seemed like a steep ask as well. But both are trying to address this happy medium, and yeah, I guess that's all.
And just a clarification, I believe that the commercial tax system has a tiered approach as well, and so that's why I think we had some discussions on this, that even though there are problems with it, I think for our purposes as Cook County, that's what we deal with in the commercial system, and that way it could be more equitable for those in certain categories of value. Commissioner Dukirk.
There are a few tiered, and Molly, the language is the first 275,000 and then over 275,000.
Oh, and so all that being said,
Good, yeah, okay.
to add on Commissioner Dukirk's suggestion of we could just at the very end say semicolon rather, alternatively including short-term rentals in the residential non-homestead class. That's another.
That's the
simple
closing statement.
That, I mean.
4B1.
4B1.
Okay, so help me with this and maybe others that are following. We originally had that up in number 6, and now you're saying we should close with that?
Yeah, that was a really long roundabout, but that's what I was trying to get when we were talking
Okay.
about putting into number
Okay.
6 was actually moving at the very end. I don't know if anyone besides
Okay,
me
so,
followed that.
okay, good. So is that understood by everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's no longer with 6, what we previously talked about, but it would be below. Commissioner
Okay,
Starley.
so the option 2, which we were looking at, reads, therefore, the Cook County Board recommends that this new class be taxed at a rate higher than the seasonal recreation class and lower than the commercial class. So Commissioner Mills, you want to put that in anywhere, or are you not
Yes.
considering that?
Yes.
no.
Okay,
That, I combined option 1, paragraph 2, with option 2.
okay.
Could you then add just simply that this could also be referenced as
You
non-residential, non-homestead, and then keep it brief and close with that?
well, that's, yeah, alternatively.
But just put it
Oh.
in the last sentence.
Mm-hmm. I didn't understand what you're suggesting, I'm sorry.
I'm asking, I guess.
Okay.
Instead of just saying alternatively,
Mhm.
making the state about commercial or non-residential homestead, that you could just add it to that last sentence of option 2. I'm asking.
I'm still not understanding. You're saying the alternatively putting it at the end of option 2?
Just making a statement that it could be referred to as residential non-homestead.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's what
I
he's.
think that's what we're all saying.
That's what he
That's
said.
Rather
do you-
than another sentence. That's my question.
Whatever's better grammar, I guess, I don't know.
Okay, Attorney Hicken? This is tough wordsmithing in a board meeting, but we're making progress.
I've redrafted your last paragraph, I think, in a way that reflects this conversation, which I'm seeing kind of, we're presenting three palatable options to the legislature. You either do this tiered approach, 1.25 for the first 275 and 1.5 for any value above that. That's one. Two, or more generally, a local class rate higher than the seasonal rec class and lower than the commercial class. Or three, we would be okay with the legislature including residential properties used as short-term rentals in the current class 4B1 residential non-homestead. Is that what you want the language to reflect? Those kind of three palatable? Okay. I know that there are different opinions and this will all come down to a vote, right? But do you want me to read the language that I've drafted?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the final paragraph would be, therefore, the Cook County Board recommends a local class rate of 1.25% for the first $275,000 of property value and at 1.5% for any dollar of property value exceeding 275. Semicolon, this class being subject to RMV tax and exempt from state general tax. Semicolon. Or, more generally, a local class rate higher than the seasonal recreational class and lower than the commercial class, semicolon. Or, alternatively, including residential properties used as short-term rentals in the current class 4B1 residential non-homestead, 1 to 3 units.
Any questions on that? Clarification? Okay.
Yes.
Oh. Commissioner DeShaw?
On number 6,
Okay, excuse me, could we just,
aren't we still on?
I was just asking for that last statement to be discussed, and then we'll go on to your concern.
Well, I'm going backwards, so.
It's okay, though, but I guess, do we all understand what she read, and we can agree with that?
The one, I'm sorry to,
That's fine.
on this final one, the one comment I'd have is I'd prefer it if you took the semicolon out before the RMV tax. I feel like that should be included into that whole clause.
Right,
And
idea.
then a semicolon after that, before the more generally.
Okay,
Done.
That was,
okay.
sorry.
Commissioner DeShaw, sorry, but I wanted to put that one away. Number 6.
We're going to go back to number 6. Says it neither fits commercial nor seasonal rec. If you look at the definition for commercial, it's to make a profit. As far as I can see, that people are trying to find some kind of a loophole here. You know, what, if we stay at 125, I think I got that email from Bob, that we don't really benefit, right?
Mr. Chair, the benefit was realized in the 2019 classification, so it from 2019 to 20 or 21, it wouldn't change if it was at 1.25, but it did change. It went up from 18 to 19.
Yeah, I'm still trying to go through that email. I got
So,
from her.
I think you would like us to consider changing paragraph 6,
Well, I'd just like to,
or clarification was okay? Just,
I would just like to know why people don't think it's commercial.
okay. So we have a question. Anyone want to respond? Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner DeShaw, kind of where the group's discussion has been is that it is a mixed-use situation. There's a lot of variance in how these properties are being used. To set up a threshold of, say, 183 days is one way to determine primary use. There are other ways used around the state, and that can lead to the inconsistencies. So it kind of gets to the root of why we need a new class, is that sometimes it's used as a commercial operation, other times it is not. And so are we going, I think it's too onerous to try as an assessor to try and determine how many days it's used for each one versus just having its own class that has shown to be beneficial to our tax base from the 2019. But then also trying to find that middle ground, bumping it up above that median property value to a higher class. Not quite commercial, but I think what's been demonstrated is that a commercial tax rate would hurt our economy. And to some, sorry, Commissioner Dukirk, and the reason for that is because it's not a viable business model to have that. People will pull out, and then that's going to hurt the homeowners at large, or the other commercial rates, and just bring a lot of uncertainty and instability to the economy, and we just don't know what that will do exactly. So,
Commissioner Dukirk?
Robbie, I understand where you're coming from. When you look at it as the whole sentence.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Yeah, it doesn't quite fit into either one of those two. It could fit in commercial and it could fit in seasonal. Yeah, but I 100% get where you were coming from on that. And we're trying to find, are you okay with leaving that, or do you want it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
and
Commissioner Mills?
thank you, and please ask more questions, because I know you couldn't be at the work session, and so there's some little bit of, we've been going through a lot of the process here.
More comments? Commissioner Starling?
Thank you, Chairman. When we have been meeting on this resolution for, I don't know how many weeks since the 1st of January, we said that we wanted to have as best a representation that we can from Cook County to be presented to Senator Bach, to be presented to the legislature. We don't know what the Department of Revenue is going to do, but we don't want to say, do this. We want to just give them options. And that's where we came up with, thank you, Commissioner Mills, the three ways that they could look at us. And hopefully, they will take all of this into consideration and understand the economy of our county and the presence of people who come. And I think if any of us will be called to stand before the state legislature, I think all of us are well-versed in what we can say. So thank you for doing this, too.
Okay. Well, any other general comments, questions? And then I think we'll just try to take this
Would you like me to get a copy for everybody to look at, so you can?
Sure, yeah.
Take one
Yes,
last look?
yeah,
Before-
good. And then, while you're doing that, I would just say that once we get that, we'll go through it item by item, and then we will approve it as a whole.
Before we get the quote-unquote final draft, Attorney Hicken did circle some words of maybe concern that maybe we should
Yep.
address.
Okay.
Let's see, 6, 7. The 8th recital. Whereas the significance of short-term residential rental property classification impels the county board to seek action of the Minnesota State Legislature. You had concerns about impels.
Yeah, I do too.
That
Good.
might be outside of my vocabulary.
It was. It's
Competency.
welcome thesaurus. Yes.
But do you mean compel? Compel?
It's more of a push, but yeah, compel I think can work.
Causes?
Causes is just fine by me.
Forces?
Forces is not okay by me.
No. Causes, I think.
Causes?
I knew you were gonna say
Causes, I
that.
think, I don't know, I throw that out. And
Okay.
Wordsmithing is something.
I'm fine with causes.
It's very easy to understand, and it's about as neutral as you can get
Yes.
with emotion.
Are there any other words?
Any other words? Okay,
One,
and
one other more, the next recital. Therefore, the Cook County Board recommends the legislature allow property classification. I'm assuming allow is not we're looking for something
Stronger.
stronger.
Yeah, I
because
agree.
It's because it's the law.
Create?
creates a property classification.
Okay, yeah. I am okay with that.
Create a property
Yes.
classification?
Okay. Any other wordsmithing? Well, so are you comfortable? Go ahead.
Just
Attorney.
one point of clarification. I've put in the information about classifying these as residential non-homestead. I have two places in which I've put it. I put it in the last paragraph, which we discussed. Do the commissioners also want it included in one of the whereas or the setup paragraphs, if you will? So let me know if this is okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As the 8th paragraph, so between Cook County Board has worked with the chamber and significance of short-term rental property classification, I added a paragraph. It says, whereas in 2019, the Cook County assessor moved the properties advertised as short-term rentals to the current class 4B1 residential non-homestead 1 to 3 units, finding this class to more accurately include these properties than the commercial class, the seasonal recreation class, or any other current class.
You are a rock star.
Is that what you're looking
Yeah.
for?
Could you read it once more, please? I'm sorry.
Whereas in 2019, the Cook County assessor moved the properties advertised as short-term rentals to the current class 4B1 residential non-homestead 1 to 3 units, finding this class to more accurately include these properties than the commercial class, the seasonal recreation class, or any other current class.
Everyone okay with that?
I love it.
I've highlighted that paragraph, I've highlighted the last paragraph, and when Administrator Rogers prints these out, you'll see them, and maybe you can better decide whether it belongs in there. I'm also wondering, Mr. Chair, if you want to inquire with the assessor who's in the room to see if I've accurately described what was done by the assessor's office.
Okay, did you,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that sounds accurate.
Can you come to the mic, please?
Mr. Chair, that does sound accurate, that we did switch to 4B1, yes, in 2019 assessment.
then I guess I'll ask you while you're up here that in general you could agree with this as we've been working?
Yeah, I mean, for a suggestion to the legislature, I think it's a good suggestion overall, front to back.
Okay, good. So we're going to take a break, and then you people can get that put together for us, and then we'll come back and call a meeting to order in about 8-9 minutes or 10 minutes maybe at the most, and then we'll go through this item by item and hopefully be able to take some formal action in approving it. We'll be adjourned for,
Not adjourned.
excuse me, we're on a break, thank you, for 10 minutes.
Recessed. Or Commissioner Bursheim. I'm going to be in DC that
That's
day,
what I
too.
thought.
Do you
Is
want
there
me to-
someone you can give them to? Yeah, good. I forgot to add that.
Cover all our bases.
What, when you're flying off?
So this is the Thursday. I'm flying out on Monday morning. Wait,
Get in?
yeah, Monday morning. Yes. Did you?
Yes.
Oh, I had the option. That's funny because we did it the same day.
Well, maybe the option, I wasn't sure, I was in a hurry because I had to get there someplace, but it said option, this is a weird.
I hope I read mine more clearly. And I chose take
As long
back.
as they give you the confirmation. I wanted to.
Yes. Oh, I see what you mean. You like two bags.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that, but if you can give them some.
I'll find some.
Yeah, I buy a bunch of these and like,
Interaction of really starting to understand what was happening. And since then, we said, when that really started talking about how it's going to impact us all. And it's a big deal for us, you know, I mean, we're like, we're working members of our hotel, my other businesses. And our. People are being, sending the money over to AUA. Is that the thing you were looking at? When you came to my office, you were I know because so that we can cleaning our stuff. Are spending. I opened up this very regular without so it's Vince Meyer has and we're talking about and I have right now.
Just write his name down, I'm sure we all can.
Yeah, you go on.
I do think they're gonna take it.
So Kenny is very pilots, and they're actually considering selling, and so many places have gone up on the market. So that's I mean, it's creating, I feel like, whether it's real or not real, yeah, and a little bit of,
Yeah, so we ready? Okay.
for these guys to kind I think that's a big part. I think what Dave was saying is really but felt, you know, not like you haven't spent and if you have black and white for 3 hours. No, think about something. I know, I've been thinking about doing everything to heal him. Yeah. How you doing? And what is he doing today? Yeah. I know if there was enough to go around, I needed an extra so they did. Right. Well, we had. And then that was like a while ago that I forgot about. So today, the trail thing is going on. Yeah, this was.
Good. To see what kind of exciting things you guys do here. This is the community drama right here, and you can't see this stuff. Yeah, well, things are quieter in Oakland. But they come to the big city once in a while. Yeah.
Points are well taken.
Yeah, it's,
It's a compliment.
Linda's picking up the tab for the
Is April back at the office?
What?
April must be back at the office.
Yep, we need her.
Well, I've seen too much up there.
your neighbor isn't taxed.
Well, and a bunch of others.
You and Binky are a pretty rowdy bunch there.
What's
I
that?
said you and Bink were a pretty rowdy bunch out there.
God, we had a lot of fun. Did some things that I wouldn't do.
Well.
Okay, in 2 minutes, we're going to convene.
I'll go let the other commissioners know. So Jeff Warren.
Yeah, go around them up.
So I do think when you say industrial, commercial, you're
Well, I get Buy a lot of silent auction stuff.
It works though.
My house is full of
Works.
my name on everything. Thinking, well, I'll get one of them.
And a lot of
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm sure that's another challenge. Okay. Do I have to print my name?
I don't think
Yeah.
he is,
Eye rolls and
only because he's been doing this for 4 years, and it's exhausting. And that's kind of why I've gone to the non-impartial mode, which I know isn't helpful.
right, that's
I
2:11?
know it's
that's
not
a-
helpful.
No, that's,
What is it
that's
today?
inaccurate. It's detrimental.
I'll sign those
And
others
so
at
that's
the
what I'm
end.
trying to say. Leaking? Get out.
But it's because we did all of your question asking 4 years ago, and I feel like I'm being put on the chopping block again. All over.
Excuse me, we'll get back to our meeting. We could have it quiet, please.
Suggesting that
That's what I do.
if you just cross that out, you're making.
Thank you. Well, we handed out copies to everyone. Thank you for doing that. And now we'll go through each sentence or statement or, and I'll just sort of ask for sort of a tacit approval for each one. And as we get through them all, then we'll take a formal motion to approve with any of the additions that I think we'll just rather do informally, if that's okay. Okay. Everyone understand how we're going to proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take item, the first item, whereas the Minnesota Department of Revenue's memorandum classifying short-term rental property issued to county assessors May 21st, 2019 has created uncertainty in the short-term rental market. All okay on that one? Good. We'll just go forward and I'll read the other one, and if there's an issue, raise your hand, and I'll try to look each time. And thank you, Commissioner Mills, because sometimes you lean forward and I can't see.
I'll sit back.
Okay, the second one. Whereas the short-term rental market is a critical part of Cook County's tourism economy. Whereas Cook County stands out as the county most reliant upon tourism in the state, in excess of 80% of the economy. Okay. Whereas the current Minnesota property tax system did not fully contemplate the short-term rental of residential property. Okay. Oh, excuse me.
Is that in fact true if we're now saying that we have a 4B1 class?
Commissioner Mills?
I believe it was in 2007 where they looked at short-term rentals a little more closer in regards to the 4B1 class. Is that accurate? But,
Are you asking me?
yeah.
Okay, we'll have you address that.
So, Mr. Chair, yeah, they did a study back in 2006 for residential properties and in 2007 for resort properties that have this dual use and rental property. The Department of Revenue says 4B1 or 4BB1, either one of those is not appropriate, so.
Okay, I'll leave it.
Yep.
Okay.
It was just going too smooth, so I had to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're all right with that one. Going on, whereas whereas county assessors have wide latitude in determining primary use, which has led to inconsistent practices in classifying property used for short-term rental across the state. Commissioner Dukirk?
Is wide too.
Question on wide.
Leads people to believe that they actually have wide latitude to make changes.
Anyone have something else? Do you have a suggestion?
Just take it out.
Take-
Varying latitude?
Comment?
I'm
Commissioner Mills?
comfortable with just latitude. That gets the message across.
Okay, so everyone comfortable with striking wide? Good suggestion. Okay. Going on, whereas the mixed use of short-term rentals fits neither the commercial nor the seasonal rec class and is prone to inequities and inconsistencies if classified as either via a primary use test. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One comment is seasonal rec is hyphenated here. We spell it out other places in the resolution. Should we be calling it seasonal recreation, or is it a hyphenated classification? I haven't looked at the statute
I think
related to that.
I think it's recreation, isn't it?
It spells out recreational, I don't think it's hyphenated.
Right.
Recreational or
Seasonal
recreation?
recreational. It's residential, seasonal,
Recreational.
recreational, non-commercial.
Okay,
My
everyone all right?
second-
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Secondly, it's been suggested that we don't want to put in front of the legislature a resolution that's going to create a fence with the Department of Revenue because we don't want them to push back, too much on what we've suggested. and that if we simply eliminated the words at the end of this paragraph via a primary use test, Mr. Thompson suggests that this would not really change the meaning of that paragraph, and that it would perhaps be less confrontational to the Department of Revenue.
Okay, so the suggestion is strike via a primary use test. Okay with that? Good.
Excuse me, where
Yes.
does that leave the sentence, though? Inequities and inconsistencies.
If classified as either.
Commissioner, are you,
So just put the period there, okay,
okay?
thank you.
Okay, moving on. Excuse me.
And so just to be clear, it's residential seasonal recreation, the full.
Yes.
Yeah, Heidi has the sheet in front of you. I believe it's residential, seasonal, recreational, non-commercial, and then in parentheses it says cabin.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
What I would suggest is we call it that one time, and then we, the rest of it, call it seasonal recreation. Where is it?
It's 4B1.
4C12.
Seasonal
Oh,
recreation,
yeah.
seasonal residential recreational non-commercial cabin. So that'll create some changes.
Clarity.
Should we just say
Substantive changes.
As stated in 4C.
I would just comment that the name is bigger than most of the cabins, that it's, takes up more square footage. It's just a joke.
I know. Oh, it's either spelling it out or referencing
The number, the 4C12.
yeah, 4C12.
Yeah, that's
It's
what
still
I
the
was
same
gonna.
point.
That's what I
So
was
let's
gonna
just put in
suggest.
4C12. As defined in 4C12.
Okay.
Is that clear? Good?
If the legislators know anything about what that's called.
Well. Okay. Whereas the Cook County Board has worked with the Cook County Chamber to find a solution that is fair for all property owners. Okay. New one in yellow. Whereas in a 2019 assessment, the Cook County Assessor moved the properties advertised as short-term rentals to the current class 4B1, comma, residential non-homestead, parenthetically 1 to 3 units, finding this class to more accurately include these properties than the commercial class, the seasonal recreation class, or any other current class. Okay, good. Moving on, whereas the significance of short-term residential rental property classification causes the Cook County Board to seek action of the Minnesota State Legislature. Okay? Moving on, therefore, the Cook County Board recommends the legislature create a property classification for short-term residential rentals defined as 1 to 2 residential units rented for periods of less than 30 consecutive days and are advertised as a short-term rental in the year preceding the assessment date. And, okay with that? I just had a question. Should we put in quotations? No, we don't need to with the colon.
Could do
I don't know your.
Okay.
quotations, what do you mean?
For the 1 to 2 residential units.
Oh.
Referring a quote.
Mr. Chair, I would respond by saying I don't think that we should use quotations
Okay.
because we're supporting anything that approximates this, and it's likely that if there's
Okay.
legislation around it, they're
Okay.
going to change it anyway.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Finally, therefore, the Cook County Board recommends a local class rate to 1.25% for the first $275,000 of property value, and at 1.5% for any dollar of property value exceeding $275,000. This class being subject to RMV tax and exempt from state general tax, or more generally, a local class rate higher than the seasonal recreation class and lower than the commercial class, or alternatively, including residential properties used as short-term rentals in the current Class 4B1, residential non-homestead 1 to 3 units. Okay, questions, comments on it generally speaking? Attorney Hickman?
Just wordsmithing, I'm calling it seasonal recreational class, like we discussed before. I'm capitalizing seasonal recreational, and I'm capitalizing commercial to make sure that.
Okay. Caps on that. Commissioner Mills?
Do we want to just use the number, the 4C12, and the commercial instead? The commercial number, is that less words or more clear or less clear, or I don't know.
Commissioner Dukert?
My concern is the large members of legislation that don't have this sheet memorized.
Yeah.
I see it one word.
Well, can we pass that? No.
Okay, Attorney Hicken, do you want to just take a couple minutes to look at that, or are we ready to, go ahead, Commissioner Mills?
I would ask Assessor Thompson if you had any further comments about.
I really don't, I don't have any comments. I know the Association of Assessors made a little bit of a hint that the residential non-homestead or classifying them as something that currently exists might go further. So I'm glad that that's been added in.
Good. Okay, Commissioner, Attorney Hicken, waiting for your last chance to comment.
This is fine to me.
Okay, good. Commissioner Mills?
And I would like to know the Chamber's perspective on this too, just so we're not missing respect. We did make some changes and fleshed it out a little bit, and I think it's valuable for the board to know what they think. So.
Well, I talked to a couple in the break, but yes, okay, so Jim Boyd or Linda Jurek, your opportunity to comment, please come forward. Good.
Microphone.
Unless you, I suppose if you want to be on camera.
Yeah.
This one's working. I don't want to be on the camera. No, thank you. Chair Bursheim, County Board members, my short reaction is that this shows how brilliant we all were a year ago, and if they had just listened to Bob and Todd when they classified everything residential non-homestead, it would have saved us a hell of a lot of heartache. I like where you're going. I did have one question. Residential non-homestead, 4B1 is 1 to 3, and your recommendation, the paragraph above is 1 or 2. For consistency's sake, and there is no reason other than suggesting consistency, you might make it 1 to 3 just to be consistent with what you're recommending as an alternative. But otherwise, thank you. I think that there's plenty to work with here going forward. As you all know, this is going to be sausage making in St. Paul. There are a hell of a lot of interest groups that are going to have a say. I know that our representative, Judy Erickson, will be meeting with Minnesota Hospitality tomorrow, or Thursday. Today's Tuesday, right? Anyway, I lose track. So it starts. This language, Judy wants by noon because of a meeting she's having this afternoon. So it's going forward. But thank you very much for your work.
Okay, thank you as well for all your work and input. So I guess we'll just revisit the 1 to 3 unit issue one more time before we move. Commissioner Dukert?
We had a very in-depth conversation on that in our work group, and if by chance legislature is going to make a new class code, we decided it to be that number specifically so it'd be crystal clear. So I don't want to change it.
I recognize the inconsistency there, and in my mind, it's an either or. We're either creating this new class, or we're asking them to put it into this existing class, and so I don't see the need for consistency there, but I do recognize where that could, and to Assessor Thompson's point previously, previous meeting, previous life, I'm not sure, about where that threshold at 3 can get into a little fuzzy, and there's other criteria to determine that, so I'd rather not change it either.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask one last time, we're going to leave as is in print here. Everyone with that? Okay, well, I guess I would like to, as chair, recognize Attorney Hicken one more time, hopefully.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully this is the last time. It occurs to me that we haven't agreed on a title for the resolution. Do you want it to just have a number, or do you want it to be, in the board packet, I think it was a resolution in support of short-term rental classification. I don't know if that's accurate. I just drafted one resolution in support of the creation of a short-term residential rental class.
Non-resident?
Short-term residential rental class.
Comments? Commissioner Mills?
That is certainly one of our recommendations, but it's not the only one, so if we could just do a number, or if we could just say addressing short-term rental classification.
Yeah, or Cook County's proposal. For change in classification. Excuse me, Commissioner DeKirk.
Usually they have a title and a number.
Number 1.
Okay, so let's agree on the title. Would you read that back, what you have now?
Okay, the second alternative is resolution in support of addressing short-term residential rental classification.
Everyone okay with that?
Maybe we say tax classification, just.
I think that would be tax classification.
I don't know if tax classification is necessary. I don't have a problem with it, but is that more accurate or less?
Read it again.
Somebody saw only the title.
Okay. Yes.
Read it again.
Yes.
Accurately describe it.
Yes.
Resolution in support of addressing short-term residential rental tax classification.
Fine with me. Everyone else? Okay, so as chair, I'd like to open it up for a motion to adopt what
So
we've
moved.
agreed to. Commissioner Dukirk has a motion to adopt this as our resolution going forward. Do I have a second?
Support.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. I assume it was unanimous. Commissioner Duchat, are you okay with it?
Stacy.
Okay, I didn't see it. Okay. It was unanimous. Well, thanks to everyone. Good work and a lot of foresight, insight, and hopefully this will go forward. And thanks all of you that were here with that interest in mind in speaking to us. Okay. We'll move on to the assessor.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
Good morning. Thanks
Good morning.
again for all your work as well.
Nothing big from the assessor's office today.
Excuse me,
Just,
we need to have order, please.
We just need to schedule the County Board of Appeals and Equalization. It has to be scheduled by February 15th for a day in June. So looking at the statutory requirements, I'm suggesting the week of the 15th to the 19th of June. And the meeting has to end no earlier than 7 p.m. so we can shoot for like 6 to 7.
Typically, we have these on Thursday nights, don't we?
I think it has been the last couple of years on the Thursday night.
Yeah.
And if we do, if we select the 18th, that meets the requirements, and it also allows us to have 10 days to reconvene if we have to.
Okay. Everyone had a chance to look at June 18th.
And what time does it start?
Well, it has to end no earlier than 7 PM, and it has to be an hour long, so I'm thinking 6 to 7. That's what we've done in the past.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that? I guess we should. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to schedule the Board of Appeals and Equalization June 18th at 6 PM.
Second.
And a second, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Oh, good. So it will be June 18th, 6 o'clock.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bob.
Excuse me while I put that into my schedule. Okay, moving on. U.S. Customs sign request at Sag Landing. Ms. Kerr?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I have hopefully an easy one for you now. So I have a request from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection for permission to install a sign, an informational-based sign at the Sag Lake County Boat Landing. The sign would be roughly 2 feet by 3 feet in size, and they'd like to install it near where visitors pay for parking to be most visible. And in the packet, I provided with you kind of a GIS map picture of the parcel, which is right next to tip of the trail, and also provided you with an example of about what the sign would look like, as well as the verbiage that they plan to use. I've also conferred with the county attorney for any legal needs, and so basically it's just up to you for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions for Commissioner Dukert?
As some of you might remember and recall, we have a large group of opposition to signage in my district, but this sign is not on the Gunflint Trail specifically, which is the scenic byway, so I do not see where this will be a major issue. And it's not highly reflective in flaming yellow or green, so I'm okay with it.
Okay, Commissioner Mills?
There is a sign coming down the trail already. Will that one stay? Is this instead of that?
I think these are in addition. They're wanting to put them at both of the SAG landings, which the other SAG landing is not a county landing, but this one is.
Okay. Commissioner Storley?
Thank you for doing this. I can't believe I've gone this whole time without any kind of information about folks going into the boundary waters and what would happen. So thank you for... who brought this to your attention?
It was Kevin Shields from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Support. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Passes.
Thank you.
Going to Land Services, item A, amend recycling center operator position. Our Human Resources Director will be presenting information on that for us. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time. I am here to ask you to accept the recommendation of the Land Services Director, myself, along with affirmation from the Personnel Committee and the Classification Committee, to amend the Recycling Center Operator's position description and designation to include supervisory status, which will result in a reclassification from grade 140 to 170. In accordance with Cook County Policy Handbook, the Recycling Center Operator would then shift to the next nearest wage amount, which would result in a step 5. So he would go, incumbent would go from current grade 140, step 7, which is $28.71 per hour, to grade 170, step 5, which would be $30 per hour. That is about a $1 difference in the budget for land services. This primarily is a correction. It was assumed that this position since its inception, was not supervising, that it may supervise, but in fact has been and will continue to.
Okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion to amend this operator position.
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
amend as suggested.
Support from anyone?
Support.
Support? Oh, okay. Okay. Commissioner Dukirk, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to the auditor for amendment to bylaws of the Cook County Airport Commission.
Mr. Chair, the Airport Commission is requesting to amend their bylaws. John Barton, President of the Commission, is here to answer any questions. It's Article 3 of the Cook County Airport Commission bylaws. They want to include the authorization of 2 additional members and removal of the restriction of no more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms, and that's in order to maintain an operating quorum and filling vacant positions similar to some other boards. And I've included a copy of the current bylaws, which has this same Article 3, and then the last page of the attachment was their amendment and the reasoning for it.
Okay, any questions for Auditor Powers on this item? Entertain a motion to approve the amendment.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Mills.
Support.
Support, Commissioner Dukirk. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Passes. Okay, and then moving on to federal trail grant for Sugar Bush Trail Association.
I don't see that in my packet.
It's in there.
Not in mine. Have you got it? So this is a grant application, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, Federal Trails Program, Sugar Bush Trail Association, for the purchase of maintenance equipment, including a snowmobile and tracks and cab for a UTV, all at an estimated cost of $30,000 for use within the Superior National Forest between Tofte and Lutsen Townships. The Sugar Bush Trail Association is providing the grant, matching grant, and the Cook County Auditor's Office would be the fiscal agent for the project. Asking for your approval.
Questions? Commissioner Dukirk?
So this grant requires that those trails are maintained for 20 years?
That's standard in all of these grants.
Okay.
And it's, that, I think that language is included in our agreements with each of the, whether they're snowmobile clubs or ski clubs, et cetera.
And I just want to make note that this is within Superior National Forest and that there will be UTVs, tracks, snowmobiles, and maintenance equipment going through Superior National Forest.
Any other questions, comments? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay.
Second?
Second, Commissioner Story. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. We'll move on to Administrator. Approve resignation of Jackie Myers.
So, I don't know, do you want, you submitted it, Pamela? You want me to just do it? Okay. Commissioners, Board Chair. I would like you to approve the resignation with regrets of Jackie Myers. She has been doing custodial services for us at the community center and at the law enforcement center. And so we're not, at this point, asking for a replacement because of the proposal I have on here later on here. But I ask you to approve her resignation.
Questions, comments? Okay, entertain a motion to approve the resignation with regret of Jackie Myers.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay,
Okay, approve the telecommuter forward resolution and application.
so, so John Tweese is here to present that, and I would
Oh,
thank John and Sarah for sitting through a couple of hours of things that, well, I'm sure were quite interesting to them, but,
Absolutely.
so I'm going to turn it over to them.
Commissioners, thank you, and appreciate your time this morning. It was actually a pleasure to watch our government at work. So I just wanted to let you know that you guys do a wonderful job. It's fun to see how much effort it takes, and that's just in here. Can't imagine what it's like not in here and how much effort goes there. So again, thank you very much. It was stated to us earlier today that we thought we were already doing this. We are, but we are not classified and designated through the state of Minnesota. This is new through the Department of Employment and Economic Development and the broadband division. And so this is, like I said, this is extremely new. To our knowledge, there's not another county in the state currently that has this designation. And so we're brought this forward to obviously try to be the first again in doing something proactive and, you know, a benefit to our county. The resolution itself, I think, is pretty explanatory. Our contact would be, for the county, be Sarah McManus. She volunteered and is more than willing to report anything that is needed to the Broadband Commission down there for this resolution and whatever information they might need. So we're just asking that you support this. We would like to get this moved forward to the state as quickly as possible. And if you have any questions, that's why we're here.
Okay, well, thank you, John. Any questions, comments? Commissioner Dukirk?
We should ask a lot of them since they've been here so long. But I just
Maybe
wanted,
not.
I just wanted to say thank you to both of you for coming in today, and I hope there's no crisis at Arrowhead that needs to be addressed while you're waiting.
You've got a great staff. Thank you.
And I want to thank you for taking interest in sitting through this, and your comments are respected and in gratitude. Commissioner Mills?
I guess it'd just be nice to have just a brief general update, but do you see any challenges, regarding this designation, or it's all?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Currently, as far as speeds and what the minimum speeds are for high-speed broadband in the state, it's 25 meg down and 3 meg up. In 2026, I believe they're saying that it needs to be 100 meg down, and I think it's 5 meg up, and Sarah can correct me loudly if I'm wrong. But we're currently offering 100 megabyte symmetrical. We have the capability of gigabit service, and with just changing out some optics, lasers, basically, we can upgrade anything that we need to for the foreseeable future and meet any requirements that would be needed of us to ensure that we're meeting these requirements that the state has set forth.
Outstanding, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I would like to just comment, too, that I serve on many boards throughout the state, and especially in northern Minnesota, and the work that you've done and those before us, having this service to our community is a definite economic advantage, and for our, personal interests, and it is remarkable what a difference that has made. And having moved here from a high-tech situation and not having it, it was a glaring kind of thing to realize that, wow, what achievement this has been for us. And so thank you and others for bringing this here, because it's just had a broad impact on all of our lives, and hopefully positive, except for some people that maybe get addicted to to the media and that kind of stuff. But thank you so much. So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support?
Support. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thanks again, John.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks for waiting, too. Okay,
Nope.
so.
Search.
The next item is about the administrator search, which, by the way, closes, is it tomorrow? Is it the 12th? It's today the 11th. Closes the 12th. Gary Wires was supposed to come back to us the first meeting in March, and as it turns out, Commissioner Mills is going to be going on a school trip out of the country with GES, and he will be gone the next 2 board meetings. So after a discussion with Mr. Wires, we agreed that it was important that all the commissioners be here for the discussion of looking at what they saw in the candidate information that they get, and that it's perhaps more important to the community for us to be deliberate and to make sure all commissioners are involved than it is to stay on this schedule. So what the request is today from Mr. Wires is basically that means we need to change the date when the candidate interviews would be. It was set for March 31st, and in front of you on the agenda, there were, I think, what was it, 5, 6 dates when that he could also do it. He could schedule the interviews, and he could be here those days. So it's really kind of looking at your calendars, hopefully you already have, and picking one and agreeing to one of those dates. As you know, it's not at a board meeting, it's a separate closed meeting when you do interviews.
Okay, so let's just ask where there's conflicts that are major that shouldn't be changed. I have one for the 15th.
Same.
You do too? Okay,
So the
good.
15th is gone.
So looking
16th.
at, we're going to be meeting with him March 24th?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I would look at the first, he has April 13th on a Monday.
Mhm.
How does that fit?
I have a meeting on
Okay,
the midday, so it's possible either morning or, but if we want to fold, I don't know how much time we're talking.
okay, let's just respond. Well, I could do it on the 13th, but you have a conflict at noon.
Yep, noon 30.
Okay, any other conflicts? Okay, well, let's go on to the 15th. I have one that's pretty significant.
Well, Chairman Bursheim, so the 13th, Dave, if he came and we met at 8:30 in the morning, would that be okay with you?
That would
Anybody
be-
else?
Works for me. 13's my favorite number.
Monday's
Okay,
my
so
favorite
everyone,
day.
okay, so let's not go through the others?
Well.
Well, that's the one that
No,
works best for you.
so commissioners, depending on how many candidates, you may need the whole day. So if you can find a whole day, that's
Yeah,
gonna,
okay.
that's gonna be better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the 16th.
Nope.
Excuse me, no, okay?
Regarding the whole day,
Mhm.
depending on how many candidates, I don't know that we can do all of them in one day. Is that the plan, or is that, I mean, we may have to break things up regardless.
At this point, I think he was thinking it would be done in one day,
Oof.
so.
Oh,
Oofda.
well,
Okay.
so far they have 8,
And we don't know that they're all
We don't
qualified
know.
yet.
right, by tomorrow.
And I think the idea is that you would pare it down to 3 or 4
Right,
in that meeting on the 24th.
yeah.
So you're not going to interview however many candidates. You're going to choose on the 24th who you want to interview, and that's what would happen on that day.
Okay, well, let's go to the April 16th. I could do it,
No, not if we're doing it all day, I'm in Duluth.
okay? April 20th?
That'll work.
20th.
20's good.
Yeah, 20th.
20th, work for everyone? It'll work for me. Okay, so we have the 20th at least wide open.
Okay.
April 21st?
That's a board
Oh, it's a
meeting.
board meeting. Yep, thank you. 22nd,
public safety in the morning.
April 22nd is okay with me.
He has a conflict.
Conflict,
You have
okay.
a conflict, too.
Yeah, you're there too.
Public safety.
Oh, that's right, in the morning, 8 o'clock, yeah.
So it looks like
So maybe
We could
April
do 8
20th?
to 9, we could start at 9, but no, that's good, okay.
April
13th
20th?
if it's not all day, and the 20th if it is
Yep.
all day. The sooner
Okay,
we get
so
it
well,
done, the
let's just
sooner we
keep
hire.
13th and 20th, and then see what we can do with your meeting from 12 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it might be worth noting on the 22nd that after 9 could work as well. Right?
Yeah, we could start at 9:30.
Because that's a larger window than the morning of
Yeah.
the 13th, but
Yeah.
whatever works.
Okay, so let's look at the 22nd again. Commissioner Dukert, problem?
Well, just, the further out that we schedule these, the further out before we hire someone. So if we find out how many candidates and we can do it on the 13th, that would be
Right.
the best day. And
Okay, I think we're asked to have 2 days, so let's then go to April 13th and 20th, and you want it earlier, so.
Mondays.
2 Mondays. Is that all right?
I'll let.
Everyone agree?
I'll let Gary know.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, so the next item that I have is one that I've been working on pretty much since I landed in this chair. And that's about how to improve things, our operations, costs, a lot of other items that are of concern at the YMCA. And one of the issues that we've had there is about custodial services. We've had a lot of conflict in the partnership. We've had a lot of turnover in that role. Some of the issues that led to some of this were addressed in November when we made some corrections to the building so that we didn't have warm chlorinated air blowing all over the Y, causing maintenance issues and custodial issues. Not long after I got in this position, I was approached by Tom Nelson, the facilities director at the school district, and he said we would be willing to take this over. So we had a lot of conversation about it, about what does that mean, what are the issues that they would be concerned about. Some of them are about communication, who's ultimately accountable. Some of them are about the advantages of having the school do that because they are already going through the building every day during the week, and they have a team of custodians. So they already have a team in place. They would be adding another employee to that team, and they would just start the sweep at the end of the school day and then continue on to the Y. This proposal not only takes care of the school days, but it also takes care of weekends and holidays when the Y is open, and it would provide custodial services during the day as part of, like, their custodial person at the school who is always available in the building, and this is in this basically the same facility, would sweep through and make sure that, you know, products are refilled like soap and towels, toilet paper. If there were spills or other things, they would be able to respond quicker. So the real issue that I had was really looking at, is that cost effective? And I hope you've had a chance to look through what I presented in the board packet. And I believe it is cost effective. I believe that, you know, if you looked at it on the surface, you'd say it's not, because in fact we had under budgeted for these services in our budget. When I tried to find exact numbers, it became difficult to do that, because a lot of the fill-ins when we had turnover came out of our maintenance department, so it wasn't always clear where the charges were actually occurring, whether they were actually being attributed to the Y or in our maintenance budget. And I think ultimately, as a service provider, and that's what the county is in this case and in all of our departments, we want to try to maintain a certain level of service if we're asked to do something. I guess, and this would give us, there's a number of advantages to this, and one of the things that I do have in here, and that's thanks to our HR director, Pamela Dixon, is I asked her to say, what is the cost of turnover? Because we had 5 people turnover in like 14 months. And so she put together some numbers for me on that, and you will see those numbers in here. And it's a high cost of turnover, and we know that it is. We often talk about the high cost of turnover, but this is truly the first time I've seen it quantified. And I think she could speak to this if you want her to, but I believe this is a conservative look at the cost of that turnover. This is like the bare minimum of what that costs in terms of other people, recruitment, training, and then also the person that actually ends up working most weekends and covering is our facilities director. So that rate was put in there initially. I put that down to one of our other staff for the covering that, because that happens as well. So it's actually a conservative blush on that. I think there are many advantages of this one, but one of the big advantages that I see in this is that it really brings a level of transparency to what our costs actually are at the Y. So it's $90,000, and I would say this, will be up to $90,000, whatever that dollar amount is exactly, because the bid that I got from the school included insurance for a family, and so if it's a single person and they're just taking the single person insurance, it'll be a few $1,000s less than that. So I don't know that final number until they hire someone. I mentioned when we saw the resignation of Jackie Myers, one of the things that's serendipitous for us here is that the person who's working full-time at the Y is willing and interested in taking over Jackie's position. So we wouldn't have to lay someone off. We can move that person over and do that in a transition way. So there's a lot of, I think, good in this and opportunity. We spent a lot of time looking at the contract in terms of where the issues have been in the past with the Y around communication, about not clear scope, and tried to make that as clear as we could in the agreement. If you do agree to it today, it still needs to be approved by the school board, and that would happen on the 27th. And this is in conjunction with some other things that we're doing. We're looking at the facilities contract right now, and probably going to be hopefully changing some language around what the Y pays for that are more operational costs, more program-related costs, and getting those out of the county's budget. So this is, I think we have a better chance at understanding how to fix things and how to cut costs or how to manage costs when we really know what the costs are. And I think this gives us an opportunity to do that. So with that, I will entertain any questions that anyone has.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Commissioner Mills?
I did have concerns about some of the specifics about responsibilities and communication, and I feel like those have been addressed, so thank you for that. One other question that came to mind, which is out of our control, but it's the school would be hiring an additional staff person to cover this if it goes forward. And that's just something that I didn't really think about. That's a potential challenge.
Well, that's actually what the bid is for. It covers that person and a little bit of overhead associated with that. But the school already has a cleaning team, so this would just be an adding to a team that already is very good and very, very well coordinated. So it would be adding another person to that team. And I think one of the challenges, I think, and that has led to the turnover is because of the way we staffed it. people tended to work by themselves there. And I just think that's harder to do. It creates can create a lot of issues, just because they're by themselves. So,
Teamwork is good.
yep.
Okay, any other questions? Commissioner Duker?
So then up to 90,412, is that paid out by, they invoice us? Will they invoice us?
Yes.
Per
Yes.
period? So. if-
Monthly invoice, yeah.
Okay, so like in 6 months, when we find out this doesn't work, we're
Yep.
able to exit the contract?
Yep. 3 months' notice. And I think either way, because we would have to then, they have to figure out what to do with their staff, and we would have to hire and come up with a new plan. So I think 3 months is a reasonable period of time to make sure that if they stopped, either because we asked them to or they didn't, that we could replace them somehow, because it takes time to hire somebody and get that staffed back up again.
Okay. And just being the person that's been here since the Y opened, we did have an agreement with the school in the past for cleaning services, and it didn't work, so I'm hopeful that it's better this time.
I respect that comment. I think in the past, we had an agreement, but they were doing it in exchange for space. They weren't, it wasn't necessarily we were paying them or there was that kind of accountability. I think also the scope wasn't as clear and as defined as it is in this agreement. And I think some of the issues that really were happening at the Y with the drains, that were creating a lot of the issues and a lot of the conflict, have been addressed. So it is a different time, and I think it's worth giving it a try, because frankly, what we have going isn't working either.
And I didn't want to go to that. We did it for an exchange and no cost last time. I was trying to leave that out of the conversation.
Well, it's the history of this,
It
and
is.
so I can't necessarily undo that, but I think we can improve it, and we can be more clear about what our costs actually are and try to manage them better. And that's where I'm trying to get to.
I guess if I could comment on that as well. When the YMCA opened, it was anticipated that we would have at the maximum 400 members, and we ended up, way up around 1,000 immediately, and then it got larger and larger. And so, the model that went into that was not a real structured time allotted thing. They would just do the best they could to clean, and it was not even a full-time position. And then it ended up being full-time through various processes, and then the county did it. So we never really had a defined model that we feel we could be very transparent about and hold to as a budget item. And so it didn't work, I know that, and we ended up with, I think we now still have 1,700 members that are enrolled in the YMCA in our, in the community, and I'd requested sort of usage of the building, and the best way we could get at that was looking at check-ins, and we have anywhere from 80 to 90,000 people that check into that building in a year. And so it's a lot of use. And our part of it is to, in the latest agreement, was to clean it. So I appreciate your work on this, and
I just wanted to give some perspective. Just in 2018, the total personnel costs, and that included health insurance, was $110,000. But there was also about $6,000. We've captured that in the professional contract services that we paid the school. There were occasions when Brian couldn't cover, and so they did cover. There was about $6,000 there. So it's about $116,000 in 2018, just to give you perspective. Now, some of that's going to be maintenance of that staff. there wasn't any reason to break that out, so it wasn't broken out. You could go look at, you could study it and figure that out, but figure 90,000 versus 116, I do not believe all of the difference was maintenance. But in any case, it would be very close.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? Okay, Commissioner Story?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate, the fact that we can have consistent level of service and not be responding to an immediate crisis. The fact that hopefully the cost neutral and positiveness of our budgeting, all of that, and the fact that they're skilled in the areas that they already work in there. So I think it's worth a good 3-month try.
Any other? Okay, so would entertain a motion to approve this agreement.
I'll move to approve the new service agreement.
Okay, support?
Support.
Okay. Any
Mr.
more?
Chair.
Go ahead. Attorney Hicken.
I'm asking if there could be a friendly amendment to the motion to provide for edits approved by the county attorney. There are, I think Ms. Rogers already talked about this a bit, but there are some edits that are non-substantive. By that, I mean they don't affect the cost or the level of service, but that I've suggested to this draft document. So perhaps amend the motion to allow for non-substantive edits by the county attorney.
Are you comfortable with that?
I'll amend my motion to allow for non-substantive edits by county attorney Hicken.
Is there support for that?
And I will amend my support.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's clear to take a vote. All those in favor, aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and thanks for your work on that.
Progress.
It's excellent work.
Well, thank you. It's good to get to a number,
Yeah.
a real number that you can manage.
It's
So-
been a moving target and a frustrating one
is.
for everyone.
So I don't have many other updates. I just want to give you a quick update on the courthouse windows. We did run into some issues. I asked for the architect and St. Germain's to come here and not just send me pictures of what the fix was, but actually bring me parts and let me look at them. And so Brian Silence and I did that. We looked at it. We felt that it was a good fix. So they've ordered the additional parts that they need to do that. And those should be here, they'll start again the week of March 9th. So the good side of that is, there's two good sides. One is I made it very clear to them that there would be no additional charges to the county, and they agreed. And the other side was that this new piece actually will make the window installation go more quickly. And so there'll be less disruption in our offices. So, turned out well for us. And in the short term, in between, it gives Brian's staff some time when they thought they were going to be occupied helping with the moving offices around during the window installation. So they are starting later this week to do some of the corrective work that was caused by all that hot chlorinated air. And that's mostly repainting, cleaning up mold spots, and repainting the locker rooms with an epoxy paint that'll be more cleanable. So in addition to just getting that right and having the time to do it, it leaves a more even baseline for our partners when they start. So they're not in a hole already, but they're starting at a level of service and maintaining it. So that's that. We're also going to, as a result of the chlorinated air, there's some of our light fixtures that were corroded. And so we'll be replacing some of those, but we will be replacing them with LED bulbs. We're trying to find ways to cut our utility costs there. So that's another way that we're going to do it. And so just want to let you know those two things. And I think I'm done.
Thank you. Well done. Questions?
I just, I'm a big fan of LED lights. The only thing I would ask is and I'm not on the facilities committee, and maybe I'm stepping out of line here, I just ask to consider the color of the light.
Okay,
That's all.
okay, I'll mention that.
What's your color?
Well, to each their own, there's varying
Okay,
stuff
consider-
out there about
Sure.
the different colors of the.
Do you have a recommendation?
Yeah.
I prefer warmer, but I know in a bathroom or in a
This is-
different, it's better to have the white, but then there's
This would be-
extreme, so
This would
it's
be in the
just-
pool area,
Yeah.
so it
I don't know what's the
might
most
end up being
appropriate, but-
bright.
I'm just, all I'm asking is for there to be consideration of the
Okay.
color.
Is there a blue light? That'd be the Cook County color of the logo.
I think that's the problem.
Okay.
Okay, comment?
Did you have something in the committee of the whole?
Oh, on the committee of the whole, yes, that's just informational. Next week, back in November, Tim Nelson had asked if we could do some training for the board with MCIT on basically land use rules and policies. So you'd have general, since you're asked to approve those all the time. So that will be in the morning from 10 to noon. And then we'll take an hour lunch break, and we'll come back at 1 o'clock, and Andrew Brown will be joining us from the DNR, and you'll have an opportunity to ask Andrew whatever questions you want to ask him about border to border.
Okay.
Sorry, I
think-
forgot that piece.
And just to comment as chair that I think at our last, as a result of that conversation, I would ask that we get it on our last February 25th agenda to take action on the B2B,
Okay.
if all goes well. Because people have been asking when we're going to address that, and so that would be the plan going forward.
Duly noted.
Go ahead.
No, duly noted.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that is on that agenda.
So on the 18th, we've got,
Personnel.
I'm sorry?
Personnel. That one.
Land and services.
Yeah.
In,
We've got MCIT at 10. We've got Andrew Brown at 1, but we also had personnel scheduled.
yes, I need to have
We can
Pamela change that.
Schedule that.
That was the only time I could get him here, so.
And yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Do we also have the PHHS
They will be at their regular time in the morning.
at 8:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, kind of did this extension of committee of the whole,
Yeah.
rather than call a special meeting.
Yeah.
I think it made some sense to do that.
Yeah. That's great.
Is he,
Just clarify.
I won't be here.
It's good.
I'll be here for public health.
okay. Commissioner DeShaw can only be here for public health.
Will be leaving after that to attend the MCT Norman W. Dishaw Legacy Dinner with the legislature.
Okay,
Nice.
very important. Okay, so employee concerns, commissioner concerns. Commissioner reports, anyone like to report on anything? I guess I just would like to say that we have met again on the reappraisal for the Boundary Waters last week, and with St. Louis County officials and Lake County, and so we're planning on meeting with Representative Stauber's office on the 5th of March, and we will also try to set up other meetings, maybe with Representative Peterson, and as well as maybe Representative McCollum. And we'll also, with the meeting with Representative Stauber or staff, will also be with an undersecretary of the Department of Agriculture, to carry forward our concerns. I would like to say that I think we've got a one-page bullet kind of thing we worked on, and I know that we all feel quite confident that we have a real strong case. Of course, we're only one of the, parts of the solution on that one, but also in that regard, it's under meetings to note that NACO, we did a little meeting Attorney Hicken and myself will be going to the reappraisal process, and we found out in looking at rooms, costs, and so forth, that it would be cheaper for us to actually register for the NACO conference, because we save a lot of money in the room rate, just about half. So we ran those numbers by our auditor and felt that it would be in the best interest. So I'll be going out a little bit earlier. I'm trying to get out there on a Sunday, and then I will attend some meetings when I can. But the main reason for doing that, it would be to save costs to the county. And Attorney Hicken's cost will come out of the administration budget. Okay, so that's an update on that. Anyone else on reports? Okay.
Well, I guess I just have something to bring up and to discuss later, or just to bring to everyone's attention, that had a concerned citizen ask about the plowing of non-county roads, and so I asked Engineer Foster about the various ins and outs of that, and that's going to be something that we're going to look at a little bit more, and this is in particular to recreational trailheads and where the county's involvement with that. I think there is some inconsistencies regarding various trailheads, and so it'd be nice if we could look at a kind of overall what our needs are and what kind of agreements we have or understandings, and try to get something a little more firmly in place. So,
Okay.
And just had an email from her saying that this will be looked at in the Transportation Committee. So
Public safety and
Yeah.
transport, good place to start.
What kind of trailheads?
I think all sorts. In the winter, so I don't know if it's snowmobile and ski, or in this particular it was ski trail.
Okay.
But I think to get to see what we're dealing with, I think there are different organizations doing different things
Right.
so it's just kind of a big can of worms, but we're good at those.
Well, some of the events that we have at the Gunflint Trail, the highway department plows out the shoulders just for the event, so it's not that it hasn't been done before.
Right.
I think we'll start with public safety and transportation, and hopefully it'll
Yeah.
come forward to us through that process.
Yeah, I
Good,
just
thank
wanted
you.
to bring it
Okay.
up, so.
All right. Item B, Budget Advisory Committee to appoint Randall Knutson. Do we have to take official action on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and so that's from your area, so Commissioner Dukirk?
He's actually here if anyone wants to talk to him. He
There
looks
he
so
is.
excited to talk to us. I did make a hissy fit and say that I wasn't going to fill the position, but Randy did reach out to me and ask about it, so I did make some connections, but he did all the work. He also serves on our Parks and Trails Committee and does a fine job on that, and I know has interest in other things. And should also be noted that he sat through this very enthralling meeting that we've had today, along with others. So that alone should tell you his dedication.
And I would note, he's still smiling.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your interest. Would you like to make that into a motion?
I'll make it a motion to put him on the Budget Advisory Committee, and also note that he has a beautiful Jeep pickup truck.
Okay,
Second?
second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. Welcome. Meeting updates. Meetings to note, I commented, we got the AMC Legislative Conference, 25th to 27th. There may be a quorum. A NACO Legislative Conference. There won't be a quorum, but two of us will be there. Transportation Alliance Day at the Capitol on March 18th in St. Paul. I don't think there'll be a quorum there. And then we have recognition of anniversary employment dates. Commissioner Ducour.
We have the very young Timmy Nelson. He has 21 years in our land services. Oh, Sarah, forgive me, I know you told me this morning. Sarah Schoonover, 2 years in public health and human services, and I might have messed up her name. She did try to give me training this morning. And Kathy Ann Travis, 1 year in public health and human services.
Thanks to all those people, and thank you for your work on this, Commissioner Dukirk, recognizing them and having cards. So, one more.
If I may, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just looking through the EDA board packet, I think it's worth noting, that there's going to be some transitions, and that's going to bring some challenges. And I think as a board, we should really look at how we support the EDA, what our goals are for our community, what our needs are, and how the EDA meets those. This is an opportunity to maybe hit at our needs a little bit harder and more. At my last recollection of Director Somnus saying that if we want more housing, we're going to have to put in more resources. And so I think that should be in the back of our minds and maybe in the front of our minds as we're going forward. And yeah, I'm hoping the transition can go smoothly, but I'm anticipating some more needs there.
I think too, also, reach out to the city, because it's a joint venture, into maybe your efforts there, I think, would be appreciated, and I'll certainly put mine forth as well as we go forward with that in our budgeting process. I guess there would be consideration at some point. Okay, so with that, I think we'll just entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I want to thank everyone for all your great work today. It's very productive, and especially in some of those items that really required a lot of time and effort. We did well, folks, and thank you.
Thank you. That's good.
Molly,
Yeah.
could you send us the final version of the resolution?
Yeah, I
Okay.
sent it to Rena and Stacy. I can send it to all the commissioners.
Okay, great.
We'll put it into.
That'd be great.
And it'll be in the minutes for next.
And it'll be in
week.
the